Hey guys, I wanted to continue the story. This is part 9 of the story of my entire divorce saga and how it played out. So, where we left off, remember, I'm living in the home during the divorce. We had a motion. I filed a motion. The judge's orders allowed me to be back into the home because she had locked me out. The mother in law is now living in the home, adding to the stress of the situation. And strangely, I'm given an order that says I'm allowed to live in the home freely, but at the same time, I have private parenting time on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays for a certain block of hours, which sort of make no sense because I'm living freely in the home 24 hours a day with the children to begin with. But nonetheless, I use that time because it's written up in such that way, and my ex is really making it difficult for me, trying to make it seem as though I can only parent the children on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays for a few block of hours. But nonetheless, I use that time to be away from my ex and be away from the craziness going on in the household while trying to live there during a divorce process. So every Tuesday, every Thursday, and every Sunday, I leave the home with the children during my quote unquote block of parenting time, and take them to my parents' house, to other families' house, to a calm atmosphere to just have fun with the children and parent them one on one, father to daughter. I have two daughters, fathers to daughters. So that is pretty much the routine that I take, and follow every week. And when I'm not doing that, I'm living in the home with the children anyway. Okay, but so imagine, my ex is still hostile during this entire period because she's upset that I filed for divorce. So there's little things that happen that she always, performs to try to upset me or to provoke me. So one of the real poignant incidents that occurs, and I know it sounds really simple and it sounds really trivial, but it's these small little trivial things that happen during a divorce process that can really blow up. Okay, so I remember there was one Sunday, where, in my normal routine, I'm going to take the children with me to my parents' house to just have a block of time with them away from the home. But my ex, she would do things deliberately, such as make sure that all of the children's clothes are dirty. So come Sunday morning when I'm going to take them out the house for a little bit, they have nothing to wear. Or she would make sure all of their clothing is wet, like she just washed it. And I'm talking every article of clothing, so that, there's nothing for them to put on. Little things like that will occur. So that occurred on one Sunday. I remember it was like a September, and one Sunday at 9 a.m. I'm ready to take the kids, but the kids have nothing to wear, including all of their sneakers, all of their shoes, all of their boots. Everything is soaking wet. I kid you not. These are the types of things you can't make up, and these are the types of things that you got to look out for people that are going to be vindictive against you to really try to thwart anything that you do. So, I go upstairs to our master bedroom and I'm like, what's going on? Why is all their clothing wet? And of course she puts on an attitude, and it turns into like a little bit of an argument. So I immediately just leave the scene because I never want to be misconstrued or made to seem as if I'm an aggressor or any kind of way that she would call the police on me. But the way this situation played out is that she became very, very hostile, yelling and screaming at me, in front of the children, to the point where the children, have two young daughters, were looking at me in fear of her, meaning like they couldn't understand. They were very young at the time, about maybe 2.5 and 1, something like that, maybe 3 and 1. I don't recall, but they could pick up on the vibe that something wasn't right and that this was a hostile environment. So immediately I went over to my oldest daughter to give her a hug to try to console her, and my ex came over, to me to prevent me from hugging my oldest child, and she struck me on my right shoulder, like a punch to the right shoulder, like get away from me and my children. She took that kind of stance. Now technically that's an assault. She put her hands on me and punched me in my shoulder to push me away from trying to hug my own daughter, at the cause of the commotion, that she was the one that started it all off. So I immediately went downstairs. I immediately, just played it cool, kept a mental note of it. Remember, I'm wearing a GoPro camera all this time. I'm 24 hours a day. I wait until, I'm always the calm one, so I waited until I put all the children's clothes in the dryer to make sure that it was warm and dry, and then took them out the house with me, later than usual, because normally I would leave at around 9 a.m. But because I had to wait for, the drying of the clothes, and I know it sounds so trivial what I'm talking about, but in the heart of the moment, these are really sticky situations. So I waited until around 10:30 to take the children out the house when they had clean clothes. All right, so what I did at that point in time, I really started taking a note of all the things that were happening in this situation, and remember what my attorney is telling me, to not let anything slide. I'm in a really contentious situation. It's very hostile. My ex is looking for any opportunity to try to nail me to the wall, to accuse me of false domestic violence charges. So the second that she ever throws anything at me, she ever attacks me, she ever punches at me, she ever does anything that's an assault, make sure you file a police report. And that I did. So I remember taking my children to, my parents' house, and I immediately went down to the police station and filed a police report for domestic violence and battery against my ex. And the way that situation plays out, the police take your statement. I inform them that I'm living in the home during a divorce and it's very contentious. My ex is hostile. In this particular morning, she performed some activities to try to thwart my chances of having private time with the children, and then she struck me on my right shoulder. They took all those notes down, and they said, "Okay, we'll be in touch, and we'll file this as an official police report." I then contacted my attorney, and since this happened on a Sunday, my attorney informed me. Then the first thing Monday morning, go down to the courthouse and file a restraining order, and that I did. So I filed the restraining order, alerting the court of what's going on, that the situation is really deteriorating. I'm living in the home, but I'm under this constant hostile environment, and the children are in the mix of it. So I filed the temporary restraining order. It was immediately granted, and for that period of that temporary restraining order, I had the children in my custody with me. They're happy, everything is fine. I was to have no communication with my ex until this hearing was to occur on the temporary restraining order, to determine if it was going to be turned into a final restraining order. So during that period, that was a very peaceful, very calm period for me. It was one of the best moments of this process, where I had uninterrupted time with the children away from a hostile environment by way of that temporary restraining order. But this is by no means the end of the story, but I'll continue it in the next video.